And there it says we're live. All right. So welcome everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 9 o'clock. Now it says 9:01, but I did go live at 9 o'clock tonight. So you guys can be proud of me. We've got noises coming from over there. We're going to stop those. And all right. So it is 2A Tuesday time. This is the show where we talk about all things Second Amendment related and a lot of things that really aren't Second Amendment related. But there we go. So get this notification off my screen that says that Hangouts on Air is going away. All right, there we go. So first and foremost, we just want to mention a couple different things. We want to welcome everybody to the chat. We want to invite you to click down there below the video on the little thumbs up if you like what we do and like these videos. We ask you to share this, especially while we're live. Go ahead and click share or just copy the link or whatever it is, and let everybody know that you're having a good time hanging out with us on a regular basis on Tuesdays so that more people can come and join us. We wanted to grow this as big as we can. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, if you're finding us joining us for the first time, then make sure you subscribe. Click on that little notification bell so that you get all the notifications whenever we drop a video or whenever we go live, which we may do occasionally here on times that aren't Tuesdays. So, and then if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you comment so that we can see you out there, because we want to know who's out there and who's not. If you are joining us over on the Gun Channel side, then there's no need to comment for us to see you. However, we do want to know what you have to say. So we'll just check in here. I had to refresh my page. We will see, who do we have joining us over here? Looks like we've got G-Webs on the Gun Channel side. We've got Gung Ho out there. David Bowling is doing double duty out there. And then we've got a lively chat going on YouTube already. We had Tack Daddy and Speed Trap 79 minutes before we started. My beautiful wife, Sandhills sweetheart out there, Stephen Brown, Hill Climb, Ohio, JB, Gun Loving Grandpa, Gung Ho is in the YouTube chat as well. And then Mad Sexy came in, apparently first. Must have a TARDIS. Snob's Wife, who else is out here? Rich White doing double duty. We've got Poor Conservative, Seven Wonders, Gizzard Gary, Gun Snob. Did I say Snob already? Yeet Cannon is in the house. Kingpin, G-Web's over there getting that 12th thumb, so that's pretty cool. And if I missed anybody, then I will make sure that we come back and say hi and shout your name out towards the end. Snake Doctor 78, Frankie is reporting in. We've got a lot of people joining us already. That's awesome. That is what happens when we go live on time. People actually show up and talk to us. That's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to talk about some Every Second Matters things, but we're not just going to talk about just Every Second Matters and what it means to us. We've done that chat, kind of run that one into the ground a little bit, I think. So I've got something else that I kind of have planned. Before we jump into it, we will let everybody say hi who has joined our panel tonight. So we'll start over on the west coast of the country. We've got the California Cucumber or Tactical Pickle, Calaveras 32 Special. What's up?
Come back to me.
Okay, fine. We'll come back to you. Gizzard Gary, my neighbor to the south. What's up?
Hey, not a whole lot. Thanks for the invite, sir.
You betcha. You betcha. You guys getting rained on down your direction again this week?
Haven't yet. There was some in the area, but it didn't get me so far.
I had a fun little cloud burst tonight. It rained enough to get the street wet and have water run down the gutter, but the sun never went away. It was sunshine the whole time it rained on us tonight, so that was fun. All right. And we don't often see or hear your smiling voice in our chats on Tuesday nights, but it's always a pleasure when you come join us. G-Webs, what's up?
Hey, thanks for the invite.
You bet. Gun websites. Check out all the cool stuff that G does. He is a huge, not only advocate, but activist for our cause. Over heading towards the east coast of the country, we've got Kingpin David Bowling. How's it going?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for being here. Obnoxious one. If we go down the coast, we're going to get to you.
Yeet.
I don't even know what yeet means,
Yeet.
but it's
Yeety yeet yeet. Yeet. Yeet yeet.
oh, okay. There we go.
And eat.
Well, thanks for being here. Moving back around, coming inland, we've got Rich White. What's up?
Hey, how's it going? And don't
Great.
feel bad. It's been raining off and on in David and my neck of the woods too. So
Okay, well, that's just great. The whole country's getting flooded on. So,
yeah,
except for California, that they're not going to get any rain. They're going to have fires again. It's going to be terrible.
we were supposed to go to the lake Sunday, and we couldn't do it because we got rained out, and there was too much debris and stuff in the water. So they closed all the swimming spots around here.
Yeah. Yep. Well, there's just a lot of swimming spots all around in Nebraska. So just pick any spot that used to not be wet, and pretty much it's underwater anymore. So we're used to that.
So what you're saying is you're turning into Atlantis?
We may or may not eventually lose our whole state like Atlantis. Yes. I have not yet seen the long-haired dude from Game of Thrones though. So if Jason Momoa swims by me, then I'll know that it's the beginning of the end. I'm going to have to learn how to swim. All right. Last but not least, right here in the great state of Nebraska, which is my favorite state in the union, Travis P11.
Hey, man, appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. Cheap plugs as usual, guys. Check out my show, Caliber Corner, over there on gunchannels.com. We'll be doing that from 5 to 6 this Thursday, 4th of July Central Time, 6 to 7 East Coast Time. So we got a 1-hour episode lined up, pre-recorded, but it's going to be a good one. So anyway, make sure you check it out. Thanks, man.
So are you just going to schedule that to drop? Or are you going to do like a watch party with that or anything?
No, because I'm going to be with family. I'm not going to have a chance to do that. So it'll just go live at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 East. It'll just show up on the list of a new video that's been posted. So yep,
that's cool. I may or may not get a chance to see that right away, but I will definitely be catching that.
No problem
at some point. So very, very awesome. All right. I don't think anybody else has jumped in. Calaveras, is it time to come back to you? And thanks everybody else for not saying come back to me as I went down the list. That was nice.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was California Bella just hit the door and needs to discuss something with me. So I appreciate
you had to
the
help her
invite.
carry the groceries in, didn't you?
Yes.
That's okay. That's all right. All right. It's a good man.
But that's where, so I appreciate the invite. And too, I'm curious what yeet actually stands for. But if it's coming from the Angry Orange one, it's probably something goofy. So get around to it eventually.
Oh, actually, I think it isn't that a word that High Point invented or something now? I don't know for sure what's going on there. So
no, it's an expression that's been around for a long time. Apparently, Oh, do you know what it means?
I looked it up once. I don't remember now. Something about I
to
say
toss
yeet
or to throw something.
If I throw something, I throw it at you, I say yeet when I yell. I don't know. Do I have to yell it when I throw it? I don't know.
I guess, and I don't know if I've ever actually seen anybody actually saying it, but yeah.
I'm not very cool. I'm not very hip. Definitely not tacti-cool. So, but apparently, if enough people get together for a cause, then we can at least influence a gun maker to name a gun after yeet. So just think what we could do if we actually used our power for good, right?
The definition in the YouTube chat.
The definitions in the YouTube chat. To throw something at a high velocity. Oh, well, my guns do that all the time. That's pretty cool. All right.
Can you yeet vomit? I'm kind of curious if
projectile vomit.
Yeah. Can you yeet it because it's a high velocity? It's, just kind of
probably.
Curious.
But if you say that, it sounds like you said, "Can you eat vomit?" And nobody wants to do that. Stay away from that.
No, yeah, definitely.
That's not the jelly bean that anybody wants to eat.
No, not at all.
All right. So I've got a couple things that I want to go over. The main topic of the night is, it's Every Second Matters Day, which we do talk about, or we try to anyway, have more conversations that are pro 2A on the 2nd of every month. So for those of you who aren't aware, Every Second Matters is, you know what? We've got one of the guys that was there when this actually got off the ground why am I trying to explain this? G-Webs, would you just do us the honors of explaining very quickly what is Every Second Matters, how'd that start, and why do we do it?
The end of 2013, a bunch of people were having conversations exactly like this one with a group of people, exactly like the people interacting in the YouTube channel text chat. And we saw that there was a grassroots resistance to the 23 executive actions that Obama suggested at the beginning of 13. By the end of 13, in November, when we started this thing, there was already an apathy that could be felt across the entire community online. So it was an act of not desperation, but an act of intentional, deliberate action to remind everyone to keep these lines of communication open, to remember that it was grassroots effort and individuals who stood up and said no, and together that was thunder, and that stopped the politicians in their tracks. It wasn't any organization that said we should shout now, or that we should shout this, or that we should shout louder. We just all did it, and we were all aware of that, and we saw that that was not appreciated and that it was being disregarded and ignored. So as an effort to keep an awareness of that ability, and to remember and to keep a conversation going so that we didn't have to repeat everything, rediscover, relearn. We could keep the channels of communication open so that people could go have a family. After 6 years, people have literally gone and had kids, and those kids have grown up. They could be 5 years old now, and now they're able to come back with a different abilities than they had when the kids were younger or something. Or people have gone into the service and come out as veterans, and there's still a conversation going on the second day of each month. It's just an awareness campaign. There's nothing to join. There's no official thing to do other than to remember the rights that the Second Amendment protects, and to do something to keep a conversation going about that, and to ideally hone your ability to have a conversation with people that are of not similar mind, so that we can grow and improve, and not simply observe what the others would do with their manipulations of the systems.
Awesome. All right. So that is why we talk about Every Second Matters on the 2nd of the month. And so sometimes it can be kind of difficult to know how to get that conversation started. A lot of us try to wear a shirt or a hat or a patch, like this one. This is courtesy of Gear Websites. He's not going to plug himself, but I will certainly tell you, go to Gear Websites. You can get stuff like this. You can get t-shirts there. You can get all kinds of cool stuff from gearwebsites.com. And you can rock your own Every Second Matters merchandise just to maybe get that conversation started, right? It's weird. I think I need to come up with the shirt, because I've had a lot of people ask me about different things that are on a shirt. Very rarely does anybody ever talk about whatever patch I'm wearing on a hat. And so I think it's just not the focal point always. But I think if I had the shirt on, then more people would maybe ask me about it. And the cool thing is, when you just wear a shirt that says Every Second Matters and somebody asks you about it, then you automatically have that opening, right? You can say, well, here's what it is. It's just it's a way to raise awareness, to have conversations just like the one that you and I are having right now. And so that's a very, very cool way to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. But once you start that ball rolling, or sometimes you're opening up a can of worms, right? Sometimes you'll get into that conversation, and all of a sudden you didn't realize that the person that you were just going to casually mention, hey, we want to raise awareness that people that have guns aren't all criminals or whatever, and all of a sudden they cut loose with the proverbial both barrels, saying, gun owners are criminals, and who needs an AR-15 because they're only used for killing kids, and all the stuff that people want to throw out there. And sometimes you kind of find yourself, okay, now it's kind of time to either put up or shut up. Am I going to sit down and have this honest conversation, or am I going to put my tail between my legs and get out of this any way that I can, as fast as I can? And sometimes the difference between the two is knowing how to have that conversation, right? And so some of the different things that we've been hearing about lately, and if anybody watched the Democratic debates last week, and I didn't watch them, but I have watched a lot of recap videos and seen a lot of the footage replayed and rehashed in the last week. But some of the stuff that I've heard from those debates, some of the stuff that I've heard in recent news articles and news TV programs and things like that, there's just a whole lot of, some of it's untruth, some of it is myth, some of it is bald-faced lie. And again, sometimes we kind of have to feel out, is this person spouting what they heard on the news? Do they honestly believe it? Is it because they don't know any better? Is it our job to try and steer the conversation towards education, things like that? But I just kind of I'm not going to go around the horn. I'm going to open this up to everybody, because everyone in the room here has already proven I don't need to moderate who goes when, so we can all talk without walking on each other. But just last week or the week before, on 60 Minutes, there was the story about they tried to have a not nonpartisan, apolitical story that they posted about the AR-15, and how, after doing extensive research, they found out that the bullets from an AR-15, believe this or not, guys, get this, the bullet from an AR-15 is more dangerous, more destructive, more deadly than the bullet from a 9mm. Would you guys believe that? That's crazy, right? Those of us
the physics alone are just mind-boggling.
I know, those of us that have been around, both the 223 or the 5.56 and the 9mm, we're thinking, yeah.
Hey, rumor has it there's a Ferrari that's faster than my Jeep Cherokee. I don't know.
Isn't that weird? But you should probably do your own research.
That car's probably a lot more dangerous with the collateral damage it can do than
Fake
my
news.
vehicle.
I will help you research that if you ever want to do your own article.
Yep.
I'm willing to drive the Jeep. No, I'm kidding.
There you go.
I've also heard rumors that Gixxers are faster than my Harley.
That's probably true. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, all joking aside, when you've got stuff like that is that's being told, and apparently all you have to do is label your story as apolitical, and then you can say whatever you want and skew it however you want to. And since your story identifies as apolitical, that means that it's not a political story. But when we've got people out there that are trying to say, why would anybody want something as deadly and dangerous as an AR-15? Look at this, look at this handgun round that in ballistic gelatin doesn't perform as well, or whatever. Doesn't have near the explosive power. Whatever I don't remember how they said it now. I didn't watch the article or watch the program. What do you come back with? Anybody? When somebody says they watched that story and now they're scared of AR-15s, what do we tell them? What's the right thing to tell them that isn't going to, later on in the conversation kind of give us enough rope to hang ourselves with?
I mean, do I really have to get into a conversation with somebody about physics? I mean, because that's what it comes down to, is you got to get in a conversation about physics, and the reason they're putting that out there, that the AR-15 bullet is so much more destructive than a 9mm, is because they want to get the emotions. So you talking to somebody about physics when the article is there to get emotions, is you're not going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, physics and explaining the difference between handguns and rifles and the different uses of them. Beyond that, I wouldn't know where to begin.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that they want to throw out there as far as just, again, I mean, you're talking to somebody, maybe they saw your Every Second Matters shirt when you're standing in line at the grocery store, or you're pumping gas at the gas station, and they said, hey, what's that about? And you tell them that, it's because you're a responsible gun owner and you want to have a conversation with people to show them that, there's a lot of untruth being told. And then they say, well, why would you want something like this? I saw this on TV. It must be true because I saw it on TV. 60 Minutes wouldn't lie to me.
Well, if somebody wants to have an honest conversation about, then yeah, we'll sit there and we'll discuss the physics of why a rifle caliber or a rifle ammunition has more power behind it than a pistol ammunition has behind it, and that if we took that 9mm and put it in a longer barrel, we could achieve better ballistics out of it, and we could get closer to that rifle ammunition. But we're not going to get there with the 9mm. I mean, if somebody wants to have an actual conversation, I'm willing to have an actual conversation with anybody. If somebody's going to come at me, well, 60 Minutes told me this.
Now,
what am I going to do? I'm some random guy in the grocery store wearing an Every Second Matters T-shirt.
Let's assume for a second one of two things, or maybe both of two things. Let's assume that the person who's listening to this right now wants to know actually how to have that conversation. So if you want to actually maybe not go too deep into the physics, but if anybody wants to get into the real meat and potatoes of that conversation, let's say that I want to know how do I have this conversation? What do I tell them? What do I tell them about ballistics? How do I break ballistics down into simple terms that non-gun people maybe will understand? That could be one person who's listening. Also, we may have somebody listening either right now or on the replay who didn't realize that what they're seeing on TV and reading in the newspaper isn't 100% accurate. So again, we want to get the truth out there. What better platform than a video that people can share with other people, right? And say, hey, go to this, this timestamp and just listen to Obnoxious or whoever it is talk about, this is why the rifle bullet is more destructive. This is why this is important, though, too. Not only that's the case, but not only the how, but the why. Why would we want to have an AR-15 as opposed to the 9mm? What are the benefits of the more powerful projectile, right? So that being said, anybody can jump in.
That's what I was saying. Basic, for with a little bit, the non detailed physics, I'd probably go with energy is mass times speed squared. So the faster is going to have more energy to it. But that's where the the 9mm is designed for a short range versus the other one is designed to reach out a little farther. And the benefit, and you can kind of get into a little bit of what each one was really meant for. And the benefits of that's where I'm not a big proponent of an AR for a home defense situation, because at that range I think I don't think it necessarily is all that beneficial, especially for its maneuverability issues. But if they're wanting to have a legit conversation because they actually want to learn, I mean, best I think you could do is explain a little bit about really the various purposes and functionalities between the 9mm and the 5.56 NATO, and explain for some of the legal and reasonable uses for the ARs that are used by people all over the place.
Midnight's actually hitting the nail on the head out here in the chat. The question is, how do you justify owning an AR to someone who's afraid of them? It has nothing to do with physics or ballistics to them. Someone who asks you why you own an AR because they're afraid of them doesn't care about ballistics. So again, how do we get into the conversation that actually is going to maybe not change their mind, because we all know that nobody's going to change our mind and we probably won't change theirs. But how do we at least put that little seed of truth, that little nugget of real information? How do we get that to them in a form that they can digest?
Well, I mean, if somebody really wants to have a conversation about AR-15s, if you look at my screen, if they really want to have this conversation, we start with this picture.
I'm going to freeze that on the screen for now. There you go.
If somebody really wants to have a conversation about this, and I'm not talking about possibly somebody abducted Marshmallow here, I'm not sure. G, is marshmallow okay?
What happened?
Is marshmallow okay? Because this looks like we should be looking for proof of life here.
No, she's here. She's here. That's some other fake dog. That's probably a robot. Those are
Okay.
lures. If you see one of those dogs and you're tempted to go over and pet it, it's probably a robot trap.
Is that like a life model decoy of marshmallow?
That would have to be licensed.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
but
nobody would ever break copyright laws.
no,
Licensing
no.
laws.
Not in this country.
Cheap Chinese knockoff.
The Chinese marshmallow.
It's the fake og of marshmallow LMDs. Okay, so let's go back to your picture here. We've got for those of you who maybe can't see this, there's an AR-15 in the top of the picture, and there's a Mini 14 in the bottom picture, which we all know both operate basically the same action, and they both fire the same cartridge.
And they both have 30-round magazines available.
Okay. So go ahead and go from there.
I mean, if somebody really wanted to have the conversation about why, what's the difference between an AR-15 and a pistol, and why do you need an AR-15? Then if they really want to have that conversation, I'm going to bring them this picture. And I'm going to show them. I may take everything off of this picture, and just show them the pictures and say, which one of these is more deadly?
Okay.
And you know which one that somebody who's seen that 60 Minutes program is going to say. They're going to point to the scary black one.
Sure. And I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate in this conversation. Everything that I say or ask tonight doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I really feel. But go ahead.
The views and opinions expressed by
Well, that
Sandhills
too,
Shooter
but-
are the views and opinions of Sandhills Shooter and Sandhills Shooter alone, and do not reflect the
and
views
not even
of anyone
necessarily
else
the
on the
true
panel.
views and opinions of Sandhill Shooter. But what I'm saying is, let's go ahead and keep going down this path. Take me on the journey you're taking me on here, and I'm going to ask some questions on the way, probably.
Okay, so we're having a conversation, and you legitimately want to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm now you've got me curious. What's going on with this AR? Because I, as a person who doesn't understand them and never cared about them and doesn't understand why anybody would want them, now you've got me curious. Why would you want that? Why should you have that?
Okay, which one of these two rifles do you think is more dangerous?
More killy.
Were I uneducated, I would say the black
killy.
The black one looks like what I see soldiers have on TV.
Okay. Now, the black one and the wood one both shoot the same bullet.
Mhm.
Everything down to the same powder, the same casing, the same bullet. Everything that black one will shoot, the wood one will shoot.
Mm-hmm.
It also has available 30-round magazines for it. The gun itself is readily available. The only difference between these two,
The difference is the Mini 14 mags cost a lot more. Okay.
the only difference between these two rifles is cosmetic.
Mm-hmm. So what you're telling me is the bottom one isn't any different than the top one.
As far as ballistically, no.
Right. I mean, they both shoot the same bullet and the same number of bullets, and they work the same way. It's just one of them is black and one of them is wood.
Yes, sir.
So why would I not want that wood one banned too? It sounds like that wood one is just as deadly. You're telling me that the wood one is also an instrument of death. So why would you want that one?
And at this point, I realize where your space is, and your space and my space do not align. And I will say good day to you.
Mm-hmm.
I said good day.
Which I understand.
I mean, that's where we're at, because it's if somebody's they're at feelings.
Oh, it's all about emotions.
And you can't.
The question I
and
have,
you can't logic feelings.
The purpose of this whole chat is how do we get past that? Because and again,
you can't.
I have a video out here from a couple weeks ago where I even asked, have we created our own monster? We spend so much time trying to say that, the AR-15 that everybody wants to ban is used in less than 1% of murders nationwide. Over 90% of crimes and mass shootings are committed with handguns. Now we've got people saying, let's ban the semi-automatic mechanism in firearms because that Glock pistol has the exact same mechanism in it as an AR-15, which means it's just as deadly. And since people are telling me that AR-15s aren't the problem, but handguns are, now I should probably start going after handguns if I'm a gun grabber, right? So
that's
at what point do we not paint ourselves into a corner as Second Amendment advocates and activists? How do we avoid this? I don't know if I want to call it political, but I guess it is political chess game or political fencing, as it were, because the people who are trying to back us into a corner are very, very good at what they do. And so how do we educate ourselves and become better at this fencing contest as well without giving them more ammo instead of taking it away? That's really what I want to know about, what I want to talk about tonight.
If you want to give them the argument that will absolutely prove them completely to where they just want feelings, you can tell them if you take out the suicides, which are 2/3 of the gun deaths in the United States every year, you get rid of those. You get rid of the gang shootings. You get rid of the justifiable homicides, the police shootings. You are now, well, if you get rid of just the suicides, you're 7 times more likely to die in a car accident. If you get rid of the gang shootings, the police the justifiable homicides, the police justifiable use of force, if you get down to the actual murders by gun that aren't tied to anything else, you are 42 times more likely to be killed in a car accident.
Look how long it took you to try to explain those numbers, and then everybody's eyes are going to roll if you even keep their attention that long.
Well,
what if they're not worried about that? I don't think everyone is afraid, and I think some people, when you talk to them who are really anti-gun and anti-violence, they'll say that's my time, and they're just not concerned about the end of life. So I don't know if that argument's gonna weigh with them.
I'm going to say this. Thank you, John, for the invite. I'm anti-violence. Aren't we all? Are we not all anti-violence?
I hope so.
We are people that, why do we carry? Because it's be good, but carry a stick. You don't want violence. But guess what? There's evil out there. People do dumb things. Obnoxious, what you were saying. You look at the statistics and the way people are looking at this, and they are repeating what they are fed because they are uneducated enough to research it themselves. See what I'm saying? And they're fed these statistics that you need to research the statistics saying, oh, this gun did this, and gun violence. You might want to dig a little deeper, and most people don't.
That's true. Okay, G-Webs, I think go ahead. You want to finish with your thought?
Yeah, so you're going to put it in a basis of fear, then that's the exact ambush that I think you're frustrated about. So if again, just how long it took Obnoxious or Hermit there to express, it's wordy and it's lengthy and it's based on the fear. That's not what everybody's based off of. So they're not worried about defending their life or any of that stuff. They have a different mindset. And they're not all the same. So you have to be aware that people don't have the same mindset. There's people that don't want guns on the planet because they see guns as a function. So you can't disregard 2/3 of suicides and say that doesn't affect you because they say it affects society, and that's what maybe they're passionate about. Maybe they think that by having it less accessible, there's going to be less accidents and there's going to be less deliberate stuff. So they see that as a benefit. They don't see the non-harm that guns offer, and they're not shown that. You're right, but again, I think we're deluding ourselves to think that when they use any statistic or fact that they're regurgitating, that it means that they care about that. That's just a piece of ammunition they've been giving. What they truly want is a peaceful world, and they think that they're on the right track to getting it. You challenging their numbers, they don't care. They're not invested in those numbers, and they don't have any interest. The same way that gun owners will pay the NRA to take care of that for me, they've paid Bloomberg to take care of that for them, or they wear their red or orange shirt or whatever to take care of that for them. And they're there to yell at you, to confront you or whatever, but I don't think you win that debate by challenging them on facts or suggesting that they don't research their facts.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's for, I think the direction that we're coming from on this, I think, is like trying to convince like a Bloomberg type of our point of view. I don't know how realistic it is to try to convince someone that's a full-on Mom's Demand Action / Bloomberg. I think our best bet would be, if we're going to run into someone that's that convinced, we might just have to be polite and say thank you and move on. The people that are legitimately wanting to learn and wanting to know more might be the ones that we're actually going to have a conversation with. Because the at least experience I've had here in California, the ones that have already decided firearms of whatever type need to be removed. In order to get peace in society, we need to have all of them gone. I've tried that. Conversation with them often doesn't go very well. So I'm not sure if that's the direction this conversation really is reasonable to discuss. I think, like I said, discussing with people who are more on the undecided, that are just maybe in the unknown, might be the ones that you have a better chance talking to.
That's why I said when we got to that point where John, playing devil's advocate, said that we should just ban that, then we should get rid of that wood one as well. Then I know where that person is at, and I know it's not worth my time because they're not interested in an actual conversation.
But maybe they are, and that's just it. If I'm not willing to sit down and have the hard conversation with the person who is, and I'm not saying necessarily a Mom's Demand Action, member, but if there's an honest to goodness person who, doesn't understand ARs, and you tell me that wood gun is no different than the one that I don't see a need for, then all of a sudden there's a potential that you've taken the need for the wooden gun out of that person's mind as well, right? Like this can blow up in our face if we try to, and I don't think that you were trying to go with a gotcha approach, obnoxious, but that sometimes is where people try to do this, is, you try to steer a conversation and say, well, if you say this, then that, right? Mic drop, and then we haven't convinced anybody of anything. All we've done is made us look like we don't care what they have to say. So I don't have all the answers. That's why I'm asking questions tonight.
Well, and that's why I said I'd like to, if somebody's really interested in having the conversation, I'm going to make sure that they're interested in having the conversation.
Yeah.
And that we're probably going to come to some uncomfortable realizations for them if they're willing to have the conversation.
But at what point do we know where they're coming from?
You have to have a conversation. The best I can offer on this topic is last year in Chicago with the gun rights policy. A roll call was there, others. I believe it was Kerry. What was it? It was one of the. It was anyway. The concept was talking to Democrat, liberal, left gun owners, right? Because we're gun owners. Doesn't matter what the letters are. and reaching across the political sides or whatever. And the idea of, and I'm paraphrasing a couple of different conversations, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, but the idea that you have to go 60%, you're not having conversation when you go 50-50. You're just shouting your opinions at each other. When you go to 60%, when you're willing to go over the line and understand, to listen to what the other person has to say, then they not only do you gain insight of where they're, like you just said, where are they coming from, what's their perspective, because everyone's different. Some people are coming at it like, I want to save the children. Some of them are coming at it like, I had a bad experience. Some of them are coming with it, who knows where. So that's an ability for you to see where they're coming from. And once they see that you're willing to go over that 50%, you're willing to not just shout, but to reach across, and that you show that you're willing to change, maybe show examples of how things have changed in perception of gun owners due to the world or whatever, society and everything, and explain that, what you're looking for has already been accomplished in 68. Now you're educating them and you're showing that we have an ability to reach over that 50% or that middle ground, and then they are more apt to hopefully understand that, what's the word, to do in kind, and to absorb some of what we're offering. And reciprocate.
Honestly, G, I was going to say the same thing. It's interesting because when you come face to face with people, and you got to go that 60%, but you have to be knowledgeable enough to explain to them that, have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? Have you actually looked at the statistics? Have you seen the numbers? And do you realize that your point of view is pretty skewed and it's not right? You know what I mean? God, we almost as 2A advocates have to be teachers. You know what I mean?
And not only that, but in any conversation, especially if you're trying to prove your point. And this is the reason I've been playing devil's advocate, is from what I've personally experienced, along with seeing a few other conversations that went well and a few that did not go so well. Keep in mind that at least, for 99.9% of us, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should listen twice as much as we talk, right? And like G was saying, and what I was trying to get at is, how do we know what to tell that person unless we know how to relate to them? And how do we know how to relate to them unless we know where they're coming from? And how do we know where they're coming from if we're not willing to listen to their story? Let them tell us why they're opposed to what we're talking about. Maybe somebody lost their child in a school shooting, or maybe somebody lost their dad or their brother or their mom to a suicide, and the gun happened to be the method that was used. You can't rule out suicides in statistics when so many people have been touched by it. And if you're talking to somebody from a major metropolitan area, then gang on gang violence is still very real, and there's still a chance that some mother is going to bury her baby, which isn't the way it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to bury your own children, but too many people have had to do that. And even though, yes, we know the statistics, we know that you're more likely to be struck by lightning than to be shot by a gun in this country, regardless of who or where you are. But that doesn't matter to the grieving parent, right? That doesn't matter to the person who lost somebody, or who had a bad experience due to what they think, or what they perceive is due to a firearm. And so we might not convince everybody. Clearly, it's not going to happen. And I've said for a long time, there's 10 to 20% on each end of the spectrum who will never change their opinion. It's that 60 to 80% in the middle that we have a chance of reaching with the conversation. But let's try and hear their story, I think, is a major step. We don't even know how to begin to refute an objection that we haven't heard yet. We can't assume we know their objection until they tell us what it is, right? Maybe they legitimately are just confused. Maybe they legitimately are not so much apathetic, but just uneducated in the the technical aspects of firearms, and the news sure isn't going to help. So again, I think it's a battle or a war that we're not going to win with brute force and might. I think that only proves the other side's point more. And if we want, as gun owners, as responsible citizens, if we want to improve our image, then I think that rests on each and every one of our shoulders to do that personally. With everybody that you talk to, if you talk to anybody about guns, make sure that they understand that, you know, you're all about safety, that you're all about responsibility, that you're all about, you know, keeping guns out of the wrong hands just as much as anybody else is. That we don't want to see anybody shot, that we don't want to see anybody, you know, anybody get access to a gun that shouldn't have access to a gun. But at the same time, you know, then we steer the conversation back around to, I haven't committed any crimes, and I feel like it's not fair to be punished for somebody else's stupidity or somebody else's you know, proclivity to violence or to breaking the law. And that can be maybe just a toehold, right, to get into the conversation where they're receptive. The facts don't matter if they're not going to listen, and we can't talk at someone. We can only talk to them, right? So I guess that's kind of the point that I wanted to convey, along with getting everyone else's opinions.
I'm just gonna say, you know, us as pro 2A supporters, and I'm looking at G-Web's comment here, and the behavior can affect perception. Yes, it does. It honestly, I mean, I don't know, man. It's up to us. It's up to us to promote 2A and go, look, we are peaceful folks, and you know, there's so much put out there on the mainstream media that, you know, makes us look like, oh, we're just redneck shooting everything, blah blah blah. And it's like, no, that's not us. That's not us.
Okay, two things. First of all, G, I think that you've got a very good point that you've put in the side chat, and I'm going to ask you to voice that here in a second. But before we go any further, we've got one more panelist who has joined us. This is a person who, up until about a week ago, I wasn't even aware was out here doing some of the same stuff that we are. So from listening a little bit to Hit or Miss tonight with on Night Strike's channel, a Bloke's 2 Cents has joined us. And as I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you are now an American citizen, but you didn't start out as an American. You came from the UK. Is that correct?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the invite. Yes, I am from the United Kingdom, and I am now officially an American citizen from last year. You have some interesting points here. Coming from the UK, when I told my mum what I was doing for my business, she told me I was bloody mad, and I wanted to kill everybody. And I noticed that as soon as I mentioned anything, you know, that it's the Second Amendment, she told me that was silly. But it's what I had to explain to her and everybody that I've talked to about the 2A community is, you know, you have to be an active listener. You can't just shout, as everybody else is mentioning, because as soon as you shout or raise your voice to that person, even if they're being ignorant, it triggers a response. It's a defense mechanism. I find that if you're calm and collective and you talk things out, I wouldn't say 50%, but at least 45% of the time, we get along. And even if we disagree, we can always disagree to or agree to disagree. And, you know, we'll go out and have a drink. But thanks for the invite. And that's my input on that.
Absolutely, and very good point. And the best thing about that concept and that approach, it doesn't matter if we're talking about the Second Amendment or AR-15s or the semi-automatic mechanism in a gun or Roe versus Wade or abortion or any topic, Ford versus Chevy, right? If you talk at somebody or you come hard at them, then yeah, they're going to get defensive. That wall goes up, and it's almost impossible to communicate. Whereas if, like G said, if you're willing to reach across and go that extra step and go out of your comfort zone and step over into where they're coming from, and maybe, you know, and yeah, there's a lot of metaphors here, but what if you tried to walk a mile in their shoes and see what life has been like for them, and try to understand their life experiences? Then maybe you can glimpse the world a little bit better through their eyes. And if you can do that, then maybe you can help them glimpse the world a little bit better through your eyes as well, right?
Agreed.
Very, very cool. Okay, G, over in the side chat, I really liked what you had to say. So do you want to tell the whole world about that? What you had to say there?
Sure, that's just stuff that we came up with in past Every Second Matters. Actually, a while back, Woods and Smeggy and I were all kind of discussing similar things. It might have been, I honestly don't remember what instigated it, but basically, I think it might have been we had gone up to anti-gun thing in Phoenix last year, and it was an anti-gun rally. We've had a couple of pro-gun rallies that'll bring 300 people. This was an anti-gun rally, and it had 18,000 people. So it was significantly larger than what we had experienced. And long story short, we watched it all happen. A bunch of us, keep saying us, because a bunch of people from gun channels showed up, and we're there to kind of watch it and experience it. So as we watched, the 18,000 people takes up a lot of space. So they walk up and around sort of downtown Phoenix, which is a big grid. And so we kind of stood in one spot. They walked down the way and kind of came back. As they came back, they emptied out into a big grassy area where the one of the anchor from the Arizona and a bunch of guns from old battleships are. It's Arizona. So they're out there doing their rally, and is there kind of the last few are straggling in, the police are following them and taking down all the parade route stuff. It's kind of just ending as far as the main walk part of it, and it's going to turn into a rally. None of us really wanted to watch the rally part, but what we did find is a guy that had one of these cardboard signs, just a kid with a cardboard sign that said, "Guns aren't the problem, change my mind," or something like that. And some guy was yelling at him. Some guy was really ripping and laying into him. And the kid was trying to be calm, and I'm guessing he's probably, after watching his Instagram, he's kind of a libertarian kid. So he was just attempting to have a conversation. And this guy, the person who's going to stop and confront you with a sign like that, is a person, right? It's not going to be the little quiet lady. It's going to be the guy who's going to shout you down. So we were watching this for a while, and I poorly attempted to have a conversation with the guy. Others did. And I think we all learned a lesson that, you get emotional when somebody's yelling at you. And what we really gleaned from it was that those 18,000 people could have been there to be anti-horseback riding. They could have been there to be anti-video games. They were there to be anti-Trump. So this guy was yelling at the top of his lungs because he was anti-Trump. And every argument that he had, everything came back to Trump. And that was a little bit eye-opening. So we started having this discussion, and we kind of concluded that we could have probably been better if we would have been better at being calm, so that it wouldn't have escalated, right? He would have been calmer, probably. Mm-hmm. At least it would have been weird for him to keep yelling at us if we were all able to be calm, but it didn't work that way. We all got excited. But if we would have had something to hand him, because he did not, when we got to some part of that back and forth, he was suggesting something that just wasn't true about the numbers. And we were like, oh no, our numbers come from the CDC. Of course, in a conversation in the middle of a grassy field like that, he's going to say, yeah, your numbers, I challenge them, whatever. But if we would have had a little business card that said, hey, we had a discussion today, and here's the notes from our, here's the where my numbers came from, and then have like one of those QRC codes or a link or something, so they could literally follow them. And I think what we were coming up with there is that ideally in a conversation, a back and forth with somebody who's adamantly against your position, the best you can hope for is that you challenge some of their perceptions, and then you give them something that they can walk away with. So that you challenge and you get them to question their side. You get them to question their position. And ideally, when they start to go do research from a CDC or from the FBI or valid government sources, then they start to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting hand-picked numbers, where if you just look at the whole numbers, it doesn't tell the same story. So that's sort of the background, the long way of saying that. I think another thing, what I've typed in the side chat here, is that when we have that argument with that guy or that gal who's upset, and we're, confronting one another. We're not doing that alone very often. There's other people there, and that's where I was typing in the side chat that we're having that discussion with that person, or even that debate or that argument with that person, but many others are witnessing it, and our actions and our behavior and our knowledge are all going to lend to their perception of all gun owners, right? Because they're, like everybody said, they're fed whatever perception of what, some skewed perception of what we are. We can hopefully challenge that, and again and I was going to just wrap up with, it's all practice. Like, nobody's perfect at this, and nobody, right? You get better at this by trying. So instead of shying away from conversations, maybe look for them, and you're not, don't expect to win every one, but what we're going to get is knowledge and foresight. And I suspect the same way that, we'll have these like funny videos, like, here's the kind of gun owner that's in a gun shop, or here's the kind of gun guy at the range. We make fun of the different types of gun owners. It's got to be the same, maybe not as funny, but like the same for anti-gunners. There's got to be you're this or you're that. And once we're talking to them, we probably have a different conversation with each one. We're coming at them from a different way, or giving them different numbers. And then I guess just to follow up, like I said once or twice already, that maybe having a business card size thing. We've talked about doing that in Every Second Matters before, but maybe having one that talks about suicide, one that talks about crime, one that talks about, assault weapons versus this or that, and maybe having those in your pocket or in a backpack. And if someone does have a discussion with you, you can say, I tell you what, I can give you a reference card, or can I give you something to take home? And then again, it shows that you're prepared as a gun owner. You're so interested in this, you're so passionate about this position or this point, that you've gone to the trouble of making these cards up, right? That goes a long way to the perception again. Sorry, I took a long time because I got to jump out, but thanks for the link. I appreciate you doing the show every Tuesday. Thanks for doing it.
You bet. And thanks for adding your thoughts into this. Very, very good stuff that you brought to the table. So thanks, G-Webs, for everything that you've done to help tonight, and everything else too.
Right on. Thanks, everybody. See you.
Hey, Sandhills, can I jump in for a second?
Go ahead.
Totally agreed with what G was saying. It is weird. Okay, you got to look at us, and we kind of hit on this earlier. It's just, there's so much misinformation going on out there that we as gun owners and shooters and Pro 2A, and you try and explain to people, and you have to point out different points of view. You know what I mean? It's like, so many people have been buffaloed by the mainstream media, believe this, but they really don't understand how it works. You know what I mean? It's a never-ending job. That's where I was going. It's just a never-ending. Us as Pro 2A, it's up to us to educate the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and anybody who thinks that we're ever going to not fight a losing battle, or not, I shouldn't say losing battle. Anybody who thinks that we're ever going to, sway the momentum to where we can just sit back and rest, you're sadly mistaken. Our Second Amendment rights, I think, are always going to be under attack. They've always been under attack to a certain extent. It's getting worse now, or it feels like it's getting worse, at least, just because of the information age, right? I mean, now when something happens, we can see the rallies and everything else. We can do online chats like this. We can get, I don't know how many people are actually watching right now, but we can get all these people together instantly, right? And so we never had that, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So people weren't aware, I think, on either side of the debate as much as what everyone is now. And I think it's just going to compound with the ease of getting that information. But that's a two-edged sword. We can use that to our advantage. Like G said, you can have cards made up or something like that, but does anybody that's in the chat or anybody on the panel not have a smartphone? You can take your smartphone, you can open your web browser and bookmark pages on your phone. You can nickname them whatever you want to, so you can open up your phone, open the browser, go to your bookmarks, and pull up whatever page you want to, and back your numbers up with your conversation up with the real numbers from the CDC or from whatever website you're quoting. And then also, you don't have to remember it all in your head, right? Because it's all written down on the interwebs. And so you've got access to all this right in a phone, and who doesn't have a phone in their pocket? So that really helps, and we can use the technology, I think, to our advantage. Before we move along here, one other point, and G-Webs had typed this over in the side chat and didn't really touch on it a whole lot when he was sharing his thoughts, but keep in mind as you're having this conversation, and like you said, we're not always going to be alone here. Keep in mind that not only are you having a conversation with somebody, but especially if you're in a public forum, you're at the grocery store, you're out at a rally, who knows what, you're out in public among other people. Don't think that it's a two-person conversation just because only two people are talking. There's other people that are watching, listening. They may or may not agree with you, and you might be the person who changes their mind, whether for the good or for the bad. Maybe they think that gun owners are all bloodthirsty criminals, and then they see you keeping yourself calm and composed. You've got facts, you've got knowledge, you've got reason, right? And I know that that's not easy to fight emotion with, but just the fact that you don't get emotional and you don't get riled up, you don't call names, things like that, that might sway somebody else. You might not change the mind of the person you're talking to, but you might change the mind of somebody else that you don't even know is listening. And that could go good. That could go well for you, or that could go badly for you. If you give in to emotion and you start yelling and you start, attacking rather than listening, rather than empathizing, then you might just cement in somebody else's mind everything that Moms Demand Action, that Every Town for Gun Safety is, the picture that they paint of us. You might
stereotype.
You might cement that stereotype in their mind so that, I didn't believe that everybody was like this, but apparently they are. So we every time we have this conversation, if you're going to go out in public and just let the world know that you are a responsible legal gun owner, then you have power in that, taking up that mantle, right? And you know what Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. And it is on each and every one of us. It is on each and every one of you to help convey the image that we want to convey without it turning against us, right? So some of us don't do as well as others. That's okay. Like G said, you can only get better with practice, right? Nobody comes out and has a perfect conversation right out of the chute. So
I was going to say, I just renewed my CCW for the second time, over 10 years. It's good for 5 years. Thank God I've never had to use it. I only had one time that was kind of risky, but thank God I've never had to shoot anybody. Oh my God. I don't want that. We're all about peace. We are.
There's a lot of reasons why Captain America is my favorite superhero.
Can we talk about America's?
We're not going to talk about America's backside. No, however, that's not one of the reasons why either. But it's kind of funny because not only is he my favorite superhero, but I carry a shield, just like he does. Mine's not made of vibranium; it's got a polymer frame.
Yeah, it's made by Smith & Wesson. Yes,
it's made in Springfield, Massachusetts. However, if you go back and watch Captain America: The First Avenger, which was the first Marvel movie where Chris Evans became, was the skinny little Steve Rogers, and then Steve Rogers became Captain America with the serum. But before they gave him the serum, he went through all of the interviews and the testing, right?
Yeah,
that Stanley Tucci's character, I can't think of it. Was it Dr. Erskine? Was that his name? I can't think of the character's name now. But the guy that was trying to convince Tommy Lee Jones to pick Steve Rogers over all these other, fine specimens of soldiers. And when he had him in the exam room, and he said, why do you want to go kill Nazis? And Steve Rogers says, I don't want to kill anyone. I just can't stand bullies. That stuck with me. That has stuck with me a long time, ever since I first watched that movie. And that movie came along long before I became a legal concealed carrier. But now that I am a concealed carrier, I feel the same way. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't ever want to pull my gun. I don't ever want to shoot anyone. I don't carry a gun to shoot someone. I just can't stand bullies. I will not allow myself or my family to be taken advantage of that way. I don't carry a gun to impose my will on anyone else. I carry a gun to prevent anyone else from imposing their will on me.
I'm going to tell you a little story. Yesterday, driving, I drive for a living, drive a dump truck. Don't make bad money doing it. But anyway, some guy pulled out, and I watched some road rage of this guy in the pickup, guy that pulled out in this little box truck, stopped middle of the road, whatever. It's like, and this guy gets out, rah, 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 and I drove right past, and I'm like, y'all are stupid. I mean, it's traffic. When you drive for a living, man, there's a lot of dumb drivers out there, and you just deal with. And this guy, I watched him. He pulled out in front of him, and the guy like stops, and then he whips around, gets in front of him, and he gets out of his vehicle, and he's like, rah, rah. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm thinking to myself, road raging in this era is probably not a good thing, because I try not to drive like an idiot. I'm a professional, but I carry a gun. Please don't threaten my life. I don't want to hurt you. I'm sorry that I didn't do traffic right. You know what I mean? It's like, man, mentality. You know what I mean?
I do. Okay, so over in the side chat, Obnoxious, you also made a very good point, which is not an opposite to what I was saying earlier, but it is a great kind of a counterpoint. So do you want to just kind of share with the world what you had said over there too? Because we need to keep our heads right, and we need to maybe have that quiet conversation sometimes, but other times there does come a time for something else, right, Obnoxious?
No, I don't want to share. That was entirely meant for just the internal chat, and I can't believe that you just spilled my dirty laundry out there on everybody.
However,
how dare you?
But to paraphrase, sometimes there is a time and a place.
That's you need. If you're any kind of movement, you need everybody. You need the night strikes that are gonna yell "shall not be infringed" no matter what. Just as much as you need the cold statisticians, which is more of the camp that I'm in. So I'm not gonna. And you need the empathetic listeners, which I'm guessing is probably a little more towards your expertise. I am a logic and stats and numbers kind of guy, and that's just who I am. So if I'm coming at a problem, I'm going to come at a numbers and how do I fix it. If I got to come in with how do my feelings stack up against these numbers, well, I'm not your guy. That's not me.
And that's
not me. I don't care about your feelings. I care about the numbers.
There's so many different personalities, right? And we're all different. Everybody in this room is going to have a different conversation, and everybody that you talk to is going to have a different conversation. And it does. Every movement takes all kinds. There's always going to have to be some people who understand to make an omelet, you have to crack a few eggs, right? But again,
I mean, there were
go ahead.
There were people in our movement, in our group, who were absolutely furious at the people down there in open carry, Texas, who are walking around with rifles on their back. There were people on our side of the fence who were absolutely furious that they were down there. And I'm like, and I understand you need those guys, because those guys are out there making other people uncomfortable. And if you're going to have any kind of movement, you have to have some people who are going to make other people uncomfortable. It's just the way it is.
At least sometimes it gets the conversation started, right?
Yeah. Yes. You're not, like you said, you're not going to reach the 10 or 20%. But the person that is on the other spectrum, that is on the other side of the spectrum, that is just outside that 10 or 20%, maybe the guy screaming "shall not be infringed" is gonna reach them, or the guys carrying AR-15s on their back is gonna reach them.
Did you mention night strike shall not be infringed? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now, one thing that one thing I do want to mention, though, we kind of touched on it earlier. No matter what our approach is, whether we are flat out going to dig on our heels and say not one more inch, or whether we want to find out actually where the other person's coming from, or anywhere in between. First and foremost, even if I want to be empathetic, that doesn't mean that I'm willing to compromise or give up any of my values or my love of freedom. So don't mistake my kindness for weakness, I guess, is part of it there too. But at the same time, if we look at what happened to High Point when they asked the internet to name their gun, and then the internet named their gun, and they said, yeah, we're not going to name it that. And everybody banded together under a common cause and changed High Point's mind back to letting them name it what they want, right? Because we all got together. I shouldn't say we. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I'm probably not going to buy one, and I didn't care what the name was. But that doesn't mean that I didn't find it important. And what I liked was the fact that we stopped having the 9mm versus 45 conversations. We stopped having the, Glock is the only one to buy versus, if you buy a Glock, then you're just a pansy fanboy, whatever. Everybody dropped that just for a few days. And we all got together as a group and got something accomplished by working together, right? So if we think about this fight as a tug of war, it only works if we all pull in the same direction, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. Look what we could do if we all decided to do it, whether we agree to disagree or not on the methods involved. If we all get together and work towards the same end goal,
dude,
be unstoppable. There's only 100 million of us. It's only a third of the country.
I was going to say, estimated gun owners, how many guns in America? It's way off. I can tell you that. But
sure.
Honestly, if and the whole argument of the FUDs, oh, we go out and shoot skeet and blah blah blah, and guns are for hunting. Y'all need to wake up. If all of us got together, seriously, and even, my God, I don't want to mention his name, that wanky guy that I don't know if he's pro-gun, because anyway, if all of us got together and banded together and said, no, we're not going to do this. You're not going to pass this. You're not. Think about it.
But what about this? What if the people who only care about shooting trap? What if the people who only care about collecting? What if the people who only care about hunting coyotes or hunting ducks? What if the people who only care about carrying one? They only have one pistol. It's to carry because they're in a bad part of town and they can do it legally. What if the people who fill in the blank? Because the Second Amendment isn't only about the tyrannical government. The Second Amendment, because it grants the right to keep and bear, or it doesn't grant, it protects the right to keep and bear arms from being infringed. Then everything gets folded in, right, under the same umbrella. So what if every facet of gun ownership and gun use could all pull together and say, whether we shout it or whether we just firmly state it, we say, look, shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed.
Enough's enough.
If we could all pull together and stop calling each other names. And I agree that there are people that are FUDs, but calling people a FUD is not a way to get them on your side any more than calling people a leftist or a gun grabber or a Democrat or, libtard or any of those words. They're only designed to shut down communication, and FUD's a word that shuts down communication.
Right. We just hit on this talking earlier about talking with people that, oh, I seen this, and oh, I believe that. It's the same thing. It's communication. You have to communicate and go, look, you know, I don't know what you've been reading or what you're seeing, or, you know, you might want to pay attention to this. And, you know, there's too many people on the left that go, oh, you wear, you know, tinfoil hats. And it's like, no, I don't. I'm educated enough to pay attention to what's going on.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm paranoid, and then other times I wonder if I'm paranoid enough.
Just because you're paranoid don't mean that they're not after you.
Doesn't mean that even paranoids have enemies, right?
Nah,
The great philosopher Kurt Cobain said it best.
Oh my God, Kurt Cobain.
And Sandhills, if you can get the FUDs on board, I'm down.
There's got to be a way. There's got half the battle is already won because they're gun owners, right? We just need to figure out how to convince everybody that it's one team and we're all on the same one.
Can I say? I think maybe we got a little bit of a win when the biggest YouTube FUD said, "I'm done with the NRA." Really, you know who I'm talking about. Hickok said, "Oh, NRA,
I didn't actually watch that video, but I heard that it happened.
Yeah,
which is cool because everybody's got their breaking point, right? There's always that one
exactly.
straw
That'll
break the camel's back. And so what we need is more people to be vocal, but at the same time calling Hickok a name, calling Yankee Marshall a name, calling James Yeager a name is divisive. Division is the other side's tactic, and I can't stand when I see it, no matter who's doing it. Calling people names is never the right way to do it. Sometimes when we're passionate, it proves a point. But you have to make sure that the point you want to make is divisive. Because otherwise, all you're going to do is drive people away from your cause. We've already got that happening. We don't need it to happen anymore. So just keep in mind the things that we say tell people just as much about us as what we say about the other person, right? Sometimes it tells people more about us than it does about the person we're talking about. So let's all keep that in mind too. Okay, so we've got a couple people, myself included, although I'm the host, that are taking up most of the time here. Bloke, do you have anything that you want to throw out here?
Yeah, it's all good points that you guys are making. I found that context is a big rival amongst everybody, because what you understand, what I said, can be completely misunderstood. So I found that if I repeat the question after they've told it to me to make sure that I'm understanding it, I find a better result in being able to answer that question correctly. It's in my field, it's best practice to do that. I find 90% of arguments can be resolved with just restating what they said, because of context, especially through the internet, because you can't read someone's voice, whether or not it's
the tone.
Yeah, the tone. So, and what I usually do in response is, what do you mean by that question mark? I know caps is a big screaming thing, and I refer to, I definitely don't use caps when I talk, because again, context can be taken out of context.
Yeah.
But I really think with the two-way community, it's we have some heavy hitters against the two-way community that I don't understand why. I'd love to sit down and talk to these people and discover why they hate the two-way community and what's infringing them to go out and go shooting with me.
Well, and keep in mind too that if you want to see where somebody is coming from, sometimes really you can follow the money, right? See who's financing some of these groups, like Bloomberg. Finances a lot of different anti-gun organizations. Why would Bloomberg do that? What's the end game, right? What is their ultimate goal? And try and just think about that a little bit too. There really are, and tinfoil hat or not, paranoia notwithstanding, there really are people who want to disarm the population because they are aware that a disarmed population, a defenseless population, becomes subjects rather than citizens. There are people that want that. And we're not going to get into it, obviously, tonight. We're not going to have time anyway, but we're going to devote a whole night sometime to talking about not only socialism, because we've talked about the different government models, but what would happen if we actually did go socialist? What if we got rid of the Second Amendment? What if we lost our rights and depended upon the government to take care of us? I think we can fill a whole night with that conversation, and I want to do that here in weeks to come. So you guys can kind of be thinking about that too, but just keep in mind there are people that really want that because they want to be in control. They want to be in charge. They want to be the ones that make the rules and make the decisions for you. And not everybody that's anti-gun wants that. But everybody who's anti-gun, whether they realize it or not, that's the direction that it inevitably must go to. And that's another argument that we can make once we have that open bridge of communication back and forth both directions with somebody, right? Then we can say, look, one of the biggest reasons why I'm afraid of disarming the population is because I remember what happened. I wasn't there, obviously, 244 years ago, but I remember what happened in April of 1775. I remember what happened when the king tried to disarm the colonists. And were it not for a few people who rebelled against that, you wouldn't be an American citizen. We'd all be English citizens, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a reason why you left England to come to America. I don't need to know all of your history and the reasoning right now, but there's a reason why people are clamoring to get into our country. We have the best government. We have the best country in the world. And if anybody wants to argue with that, look at our border. People aren't leaving. People are coming here because it's better. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to try and find the right way again to explain to people that if we were to disarm our population, we couldn't have a repeat of 1775 and 1776. There wouldn't be a repeat revolution if we all gave up our guns. And maybe Bernie, maybe Ocasio-Cortez, maybe Elizabeth Warren don't actually want to be emperor or empress, right? I understand that they may have the best interests of people in mind. They really may, in their own minds, they may be benevolent. Okay, I'm not going to say that they're evil people because I don't think any of them are. But what happens with, if we had President Sanders or President Warren, what happened if we were to go as a socialist government? What about our next president or our next whatever, emperor, empress, whatever the title becomes? What if that person isn't benevolent? Then what defense have we got? We've already given up our chance to change it, right? So at that point, we're just in it for the long haul. We're along for the ride, and we have no control over where the train goes anymore. And so people need to kind of think about this, not just the president that we have now or the president that we have next, but what about the president that we have 20 years from now? What about the president that we have 50 years from now? What if we don't have a president anymore 50 years from now? What if it really is an emperor? Or they call themselves a president, but they're like Fidel Castro, and nobody has any freedom in the country. So this is where a socialist and a communist government, anything that is not a constitutional republic, inevitably must go to. Is because there's only one way to guarantee that everybody follows the rules, and that's to rule with an iron fist. And the only way to rule with an iron fist is to take away any chance of rebellion.
Well, I mean, if you look into history, anytime that's happened, it didn't work out well for them. I mean, you look-
No, but that's just because nobody's done it right.
I was just going to say, people get complacent. You're absolutely right, Sandhill. People get complacent. They don't pay attention. They don't pay attention to what's going on, and we're just going to go with the flow. And you realize, people, that your rights are being taken away until there's nothing left, and then you have no right. Complacency. It's man.
Yes. All right. Sorry, I had to be snarky out in the chat there. Okay, so all right, so Gizzard, you've been holding it down out in the chat like you always do, and I appreciate it. But do you have anything you want to voice as we are going through any of this?
Well, I've been sitting here listening to it and thinking about it, but I'm not sure where you go. I mean, I'd be hard pressed in a lot of these situations too. And I've been in these situations where I've tried to promote the Second Amendment and stuff to like my friends. I have friends that own hunting rifles and stuff like that who look at me like I'm crazy when I have my Every Second Matters patch on. So here comes Decker with his crazy patch, And I tried to explain to him, I'm not crazy. I'm just trying to defend my rights and your rights.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, they don't know that you're doing them a favor because they don't see it that way.
Yeah, they don't see it, and I've tried to get them to see it, but I'm trying in little bits at a time. I'm not trying to throw the whole bucket out at once.
Well, and
If
that's
I
just
see I'm
it.
not getting anywhere, I'll try it next time, and I'm going to keep trying until maybe I see a crack there.
Breadcrumbs, right? I mean,
Yep.
honestly, Rome wasn't built in a day. We can't always convince people with one conversation. But again, plant that seed of truth, that little seed of knowledge, and plant that seed of doubt. If they think that we're all, because you own a gun, you must be a criminal or a killer, plant that seed of doubt about that too. Let them see, well, that guy really didn't act like a killer. That lady was really nice, and she said she owns a gun. But she said she only owns a gun because she doesn't want anybody, messing with her. I don't think she'd ever go rob a bank with it. I mean, just plant the seeds. It's not our job always to water them or make them grow. It's our job to just plant them. Somebody else may come along later, and you plant a seed today, and next year at a rally, that same person may witness somebody else having a conversation saying, it's that guy that I talked to at the gas station was right. I mean, this guy over here is pro-gun, and he's sitting there. He's not yelling. He's not screaming. He's being calm and collected, and he's using logic and facts and reason. Maybe that guy at the gas station was right. Maybe they're not all bloodthirsty killers.
Yeah, those people you call kooks? I'm a kook.
Just imagine if we could open one pair of eyes a day of all of us.
Or if each one of us could open one pair of eyes. And then if they could open one pair of eyes, and if they could open one pair of eyes, right? We don't have to save the world. We have to just have to tell the truth and get the truth out there.
Right.
And keep the message constant.
Right. Okay, Rich, you haven't been super vocal, so I'm going to give you a chance to give any thoughts that you have here before we start winding down.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on when you brought up the historical aspect of it, particularly about how we've always been fighting gun control. When I was in school still, there was another guy in one of my classes who was borderline, whether he was anti or pro-gun. And about that same time period, I had written a paper for my criminal justice writing class on the Second Amendment and fighting gun control. And one of the things I talked to him about, because he was, I forget how we got into a discussion about it one day, was about how the gun control there was gun control laws in the 1800s, and a lot of times that ended up leading the gun control laws in and of themselves ended up leading to gunfights. With the most famous one being perhaps the gunfight at the OK Corral. Everybody's heard that story. That started because of a gun control law and the bad guys refusing to obey the gun control law. So the ERPs had to go and do their job and disarm them. And we all know what the end result was. So that got him thinking. And he's like, yeah, but what about somehow we ended up going down the line and we came to the NFA in 1934, which was on paper, and what they claimed was because of the gangs during the 20s and then the bank robbers during the early 30s. And after that was passed, you still had people going out there robbing these banks. They weren't paying the $200 fine. So in essence, it did nothing to curb that. And by the time we got done talking, he was like, yeah, okay. And then we had to go our separate ways because we had different classes and whatnot. But a couple weeks later, he emailed me with the question we've been fielding a lot lately, at least on my show: what will be a good first gun for him to get? So looking at it historically and showing him how various gun laws through the years have not worked, I was actually able to convince him that maybe owning a gun wasn't such a bad idea.
Well, and there's so many different illustrations that one can come up with, and I've tried to do different illustrations and different videos in the past too. But I mean, if they're a parent and they've got more than one kid, that's where it comes down to. If you've got one kid who breaks curfew, and you've got 3 kids who come home 10 minutes early every night, and the one kid consistently shows up an hour after he's supposed to get home, do you ground all 4 kids, or do you punish the offender? And the people who've been proven to be responsible, you reward that behavior, or at the very least you don't punish it, right? So there's different ways that we can find to try and relate our situations to whoever we're talking to. But again, that goes back to, we don't know how to relate it to them if we don't know anything about them. So we need to get to know them too. And we need to find that common ground, right? Well, once we find that common ground, then we can see where we disagree and we can work on bridging those gaps. But I think finding that common ground and making a friend is valuable in any aspect in life. And I work in sales, so that's part of what I do daily. But when I'm not trying to convince somebody to leave that big cell phone carrier and switch over to my regional carrier that I work for, I might be talking to somebody who thinks that you shouldn't be able to own an AR-15 because too many people are shooting babies with them. Okay, that's a great place to start from. Now let's see why you feel that way. You're a grandmother. Okay, I understand you don't want your granddaughter to have to go to school and be afraid of an active shooter situation in school. I wouldn't want that either. Nobody wants to see kids get shot. Let's build on this common ground. We want the same things. We just think that there's different ways to achieve it.
Just make sure we can tell them that they might be shooting out the school with a mini 14 with a Woodstock. Yeah, we got into that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's all about education. I mean, my God, the anti-gun people, they I don't want to use the word naive, but maybe, because they don't really know the statistics. They don't know the numbers. They are fed what the mainstream media feeds them. You know what I mean? It's like, honestly, John, it's up to us. I'm not a big channel. You're bigger than me, but it's up to us to educate. Is
that a fat joke? I don't know what that meant.
What? I said,
is that a fat joke? You said I'm bigger than you. I wasn't sure.
No, I said you're a bigger channel than me.
I knew what you meant. No, but honestly, and obnoxious, I was picking on you earlier, but you did have you did make a very good point. I mean, the Mini 14 works the same way as roughly the same way as an AR-15. It shoots the same round, and it can hold just as many of them, right? But again, we want to make sure that we're not trying to weasel somebody towards a gotcha moment when they may very well feel the way that I brought up in that example. Well, if that's the same, then why would anybody need that too? Let's get rid of all of it. You're just telling me that they're all destructive and they're all unnecessary. I love it when people say, why would you want an AR-15? You're not going to, why would you shoot a deer with that? And I laugh and I say, oh, I would never shoot a deer with an AR-15. That's preposterous. I would definitely want something with enough power to actually ethically kill that deer, not just wound it and have it run off. And then the look on their face, they're like, "What are you talking about?" On TV, they make that thing look like it'll, put a hole in the world.
Oh
No.
yeah, it's a semi-full auto. It'll just yeah.
I have a
Semi-full.
So the other day, I was at the range, my friend's property. He has 10 acres. That's our new range now. And he had a Winchester that was given to him by his father. It was a 30-30. And, it was a normal looking rifle with a wood stock and everything. And when I brought out my, it wasn't for anything fancy. I brought out my Ruger Precision rifle and it had the the M-lock style hand guard and, the bipod on there, and everybody's eyes lit up. But this Ruger was only a 22. So it seems like, when you throw in the word tactical, it scares a lot of people, and it shouldn't, because the word tactical doesn't necessarily mean it can kill more or hurt more. It just means that it's buffed up a little, I guess.
Well, that's California's whole system is based on looks.
It is.
And features.
Yeah, it's all cosmetics.
Yeah,
and that's all that. Like I brought that up with the the AR-15 versus the Mini 14. It's completely cosmetic.
Speaking of that, did you I don't know if you guys watched Daily Shooter. He just recently moved from California. He was a California guy.
Now he's in Nevada, right?
Yeah, and he made a video and he's like, I can't believe how easy it was to buy this gun. And he's like, I felt like I was breaking the law. I'm like, welcome to freedom, buddy.
That's so funny you said that. I had a patient 2 days ago, and he was from Jersey, and he would have to go to New York or Pennsylvania, I think maybe it was, and then fill out some documentation and able to bring that firearm back to New Jersey, because they have pretty much more stricter rules in New Jersey. And he said, down here, you can go to Walmart and buy a gun. So that's kind of funny.
It's true here too in Nebraska. You can't get pistols, but you can get long guns and shotguns. Well, rifles and shotguns, I should say.
It is kind of funny that Walmart moved out the ARs, but you can still get the Mini 14s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only Walmart, for some reason. I have my concealed weapons license, but only Walmart, you still have to wait the 3 days to pick up that firearm.
It depends on the state.
I don't have to in Ohio. I background check. I got a gun.
I've never bought a gun from Walmart in Nebraska, so I don't know if they have a company policy. But
no, I bought two.
To buy a firearm in Nebraska, the only way that you can buy a pistol in Nebraska is obviously you have to be a resident. You have to already have gone through a background check and have your purchase permit or your carry permit. Either one tells the FFL that you've already passed a background check. So in our state, it's really easy because if you have that permit, it's not been revoked, then they don't even have to do a background check again. You've passed it. So that's very nice. Up until the point where if we get some sort of universal background check law, that will all obviously have to change, which is terrible because, again, for a different night, but my philosophy on universal background checks is it's a very fancy way to weasel in a gun registry, because you can't enforce universal background checks unless every gun is registered.
Yeah,
and that's illegal to do.
Here in Florida, even if you have a concealed weapon license, you have to have a background check. I think it's like $5, but matter of 10 minutes while you wait.
Sure.
Shop for more guns, but
That's right.
Yeah, and you said about how you got asked about why would you want to hunt a deer with an AR-15. I got that same question once, or one very similar to it. I looked at the person and said, I don't know, what caliber is it? And they didn't know how to answer after that point, because they just thought they were all the same caliber.
Yeah, I've never used an AR-15 to hunt deer, but I have used a Ruger Model 77 in 223 once with a bullet that was heavy enough to be legal in the state of Nebraska. It's the only deer I've ever shot that I didn't recover, and I'll never do it again. I was a teenager. No, I was just barely into my 20s and wasn't as experienced about hunting as I am now. I'll never shoot a 223 or a 5.56 again at a deer. And the rain, it wasn't a fact that I was too far away. I was probably within 50 yards or less of that deer.
You shoot it in the heart or the head?
I shoot chest. I shoot vitamin.
Yeah, 223 heart, but I'll agree with you. 223 for deer, not good.
It's the only time we tracked that deer.
Unless you shoot him in the head.
We tracked that deer over 2.5 miles. We never did recover it. It's the only deer I've ever shot that I lost.
Been there,
and I've never shot less than a 24 caliber since then at a deer. So I've killed a lot with 243. Even used an SKS with 7.62 by 39 and hollow point, expanding. Can't shoot full metal jacket in Nebraska, but everything that I've ever shot has ethically dispatched the animal without having to make it suffer and run a long ways hurt. So other than that one deer, it's the low point of my hunting career.
Honestly, brother, I've gotten to the point that when I hunt, if I'm going to shoot it, I'm going to eat it because that's why I'm hunting it. And I don't want to see it suffer. I want to see it. I'm going to shoot. That's going to fall over dead. You know what I mean?
Nobody in their right mind wants to see it suffer.
Yeah. In the last deer that I killed, I had to shoot it twice, and the second shot went through its spine and it let out this yelp. And I was like, oh, come on, dude, just fall over dead. You know what I mean?
All right, we're working on swaying opinions here. Let's not go into horror stories from hunting.
Okay, I'm just saying,
We can have that chat some other time. Okay, so
moving on.
But it shows that we do, in fact, care about even the hunting side of it. We don't do it because we want to torture the animals,
It's hard to be, for me anyway, and I'm only speaking for myself, but it's hard to not be emotional. After I shoot a deer, I'm grateful, and I'm a Christian. I'm grateful that God gave me that animal. I'm grateful that He created such a beautiful thing. I don't feel bad that I killed something innocent. I'm gonna harvest the meat from that animal, and if it looks very nice, it may go on the wall so I can remember the experience of that hunt too. I mean, I've got one on the wall right now, and the story of that hunt was probably one of my favorite deer hunting stories ever. It was also the first one that my wife got to enjoy with me, so that was really cool. And she was literally tears streaming down her face after we came up to recover the animal, and she was sitting there, right beside it and touching its fur. First time she's ever touched a deer before like that, and tears streaming down her face because something so beautiful died. But she's not anti-hunting. She's like me. She's grateful for the opportunity for, to be able to do stuff like that. So, even hunters have hearts, believe it or not. Some people don't think we do, but we do. None of us want to see an animal suffer or anything innocent suffer.
Yep. I'm a hunter all my life. Same thing. I need to eat, and I don't want you to suffer. I'm going to shoot. No. Okay. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, Travis, did you have anything that you wanted to throw out here before we start wrapping up?
Well, you want to talking about the 2A and Every Second Matters and firearm ownership real quick. What Obnoxious One went over with the Mini 14 AR example, I actually used that on my mom. She's an intelligent person, a rational person, but was not a gun person. She is now. She's changed, but 4 or 5 years ago, we looked at those two examples and the evil black guns, and I don't know anybody needs one of those things and this and that. And I said, well, let's look at these two. So we look at the AR-15 and the Ruger, the Mini 14, and went over all the features. And she goes, but that one is so much more dangerous. I go, why? Well, it looks like the Army gun that the soldiers carry. I go, Mom, they function the same way. The bullets come out of the barrel, similar amounts of velocity and force. I said, they're very much the same. And that came up again. She actually works in Walmart, and she told me, oh, well, we're not going to carry AR-15s anymore, 3 or 4 years ago. And I said, that's kind of ridiculous. She goes, well, I said, well, they got the Mini 14. And I said, remember when I showed you those pictures? She goes, yeah. I go, there really isn't any difference except for the price. And I said, to be honest with you, I'd buy a Mini 14 if they weren't $700 or $800, or $600 or whatever. We can argue prices, but yeah. So it is a good example. If you know somebody that's rational, you want to give them a simple example. Say, well, let's look at these two. They're very similar in so many ways, and again, it is just a tool. It's how you use that tool. Anything can be used as a weapon. So it can be a good way to be a conversation starter with some people, but it does get complicated. Like you said, when you play devil's advocate, that gets thrown in there too. And then that's how you carry yourself and what you say and do,
Yep. And again, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what argument we try to come out with, whether it's, you want to ban AR-15s when they're used in less than 1% of crimes in America. Yeah. If you want to ban something, you should be looking at pistols. Oh, I just told you to ban pistols. I shouldn't have said that. Forget I said that. I mean, we're fighting an uphill battle. We're always going to be fighting an uphill battle because, again, they are not afraid to lie or cheat or spread disinformation. And it behooves us to be the good guys and to not fight fire with fire, right? We want to fight emotion with logic, emotion with reason, and those don't always overcome emotion. And so, again, our adversaries are very good at what they do. They're great at working a crowd and stirring people up. And then if we get into mob mentality, everything breaks down, right? Which is why our founding fathers did not give us a democracy, because they understood mob mentality. So, all right, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Double A, what you got?
I said they gave us a republic, correct?
A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it.
Nothing, man. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. Check us out on YouTube or wherever. We're here and there. Thanks.
Absolutely.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
All right. A bloke's 2 cents. Very, very cool to have you join us. Thanks for coming on and giving your 2 cents worth. Anything that you want to say or any channel plugs you want to make before we wind up here?
Sure. I really appreciate the invite. It's such great company. It's a diverse community. I love it. I'm not on every single platform, but I am on YouTube and Gunstreamer. I'm not on 430 channel yet, but hopefully I will be. And our statement is we're raising awareness for children with disabilities and funding those charities. And check us out.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Gizzard Gary, anything that you want to throw out there before we're gone?
Oh, you might check out my channel. Check out my website at gizzardgary.com for links to all my social media presences. And if you like, come by Foul Territory on Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And or the early bird chat on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Have a conversation with us, and thanks for the invite.
You bet. And give them the bird, because the bird is the word.
Indeed.
Or grease is the word. I still get those confused.
Yep.
I haven't figured that one out yet. All right. Thanks for being here, Gary. Obnoxious One, thanks for joining us. What do you have to say to wrap stuff up, and any fun plugs you want to make?
Again, I am upset that you aired my dirty laundry that I put in the side chat that was just for us, and you just put that out there for everybody. So
you put things out there for everybody that we can't ever unsee all the time.
That is a dirty
Come on,
lie.
man. We're a juicy gossip crowd. You know that.
dirty lie. Check out my channel. Check out my Instagram, where I post pictures of pretty guns. Some of them mine. All right, most of them mine. Has gone down a little bit since the wife got, unemployed.
Life happens.
Yep, life happens. But yeah, check out my Instagram. Check out my channel. I don't think I'm going to have a show Thursday nights, and everybody's going to be out watching fireworks.
Watching Freedom?
Yep, watching Freedom. And I'll probably be out someplace watching Freedom too. So Happy Every Second Matters to everybody, and happy 4th of July to everybody. And if you think this show was worth a quarter, just one thin little quarter, I mean less than a cup of coffee, less than a cafe Americano, then go over to Sandhills Shooter and put down $1 on his Patreon.
Well,
and
thanks
you'll get 4 shows a month for that $1. And then anything else he puts out is completely free.
It's
And
worth every penny.
It's worth every penny of that free.
That's
and
right.
If you've got an extra $1 after that, go give it to me.
That's right. Cool, and thanks for being here. All right, Rich White, anything that you want to throw out there for Unloaded Media?
Yeah, check us out every Sunday night at 8 Eastern over on the Unloaded Media channel. The show is This Week Unloaded. A few of the people that have shown up on this panel show up on that panel every so often.
I feel like that was a dig at me.
Everything's a dig at you. We just don't always let you in on it.
That's only because you have a guilty conscience.
I apologize for nothing.
I admit nothing. All right. Well, Rich, thanks for being here.
Yep. Thanks for the invite.
Appreciate you. All right. Travis P11, you already made your shameless plugs, but we'll give you a chance to do it again.
All right, man. As always, make sure you subscribe to everybody here on the panel and check me out over on gunchannels.com. My channel's called Caliber Corner. Do a little podcast once a week. Check it out. Thanks, man.
You bet. Thanks for joining us.
Cool.
All right. This has been 2A Tuesday. Let's see who we had over on Gun Channels checking us out. We had David over there. He had to leave, so we didn't get to say goodnight to him. But go check out David Bowling, Kingpin, because he's got some really cool stuff. The dude's got his head screwed on right. And for being a younger guy in this crowd, we don't see that many people that are his age that have their head on straight the way that David does. So you definitely want to check that channel out. Gung Ho was in the house on Gun Channels. G-Webs was in there. Gizzard holding it down 3 places at once. Who else? Gun Snob was out there. And looks like maybe that was it on the Gun Channel side. So thanks all of you who were watching the simulcast over on the Gun Channels. And again, we've got the list. Yeah, there you go. So who'd we have out there tonight on the YouTube side? We had Kevin the Tack Daddy. We had Speed Trap, and I don't think I've seen you before in one of these chats, Speed Trap, so welcome. Stephen Brown, Hill Climb Ohio JB, Gun Loving Grandpa, Gung Ho doing double duty, hanging out on YouTube too. Mad Sexy, Snob's Wife, Rich White doing double duty, Poor Conservative, Seven Wonders, Gizzard doing double duty, Gun Snob, Snob's Wife's husband, we should call him that. Yeet Cannon, Kingpin, obviously is not with us anymore, but he was out there for a while. Obnoxious One doing double duty. G-Web's doing triple duty. Frankie's Guns and Glitter was out there. Snake Doctor 78, I don't think I've seen you before either, so welcome. Blue Steel 44, Patriot in the Dark. Joe Smith was in the house. What's up, Joe Smith? Just so you know, I'm never going to actually get in the ring with you, and it's not because I'm scared. It's just because I'm scared. But I know that you're really the Rock, and I'm not getting in the ring with the Rock.
You're a hugger, not a fighter.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
There you go.
But I'm also a fighter, so don't start any crap.
Snuggler.
You said you wouldn't tell.
Oh, well, now the dirt comes out. Hey, I didn't say anything, right?
Yeah, how's it feel?
38
used to
Super
it.
Partisan, Keith Gregory, Midnight Range TM. Midnight One, I don't know if you're still out there, Midnight, but if you're still there, you wanted to know about how wide these glasses are. I switched them over to the yellow lenses, and I did want to put these on just so you can kind of see how wide they are. If you've got a larger than average head, I think they're going to fit just fine. They're almost too wide. I need to get one of those notch gear hats so I can pull my hat down with the glasses on. But there he is. All right. So that's what the glasses look like on. I think if you've got a wider than average head, they still would fit well. So, all right, moving right along. Michael Stan out there. I don't remember seeing Michael before. Agorizer. Mike, Double A doing double duty. Rob C was out there making some good points. I was going to repeat some of the stuff you said, Rob, and I didn't get to it all, but I did see some of the stuff he said that was awesome. Rob D out there, C4 Defense, Sarge was in the house. Drunk Mouse 2030, haven't seen Drunk Mouse before. Chris Kroll, haven't seen Chris. Georgia Rebel out there, Local 223, 9 Millimia, the better half of Midnight Range, Kinky Sphincter, and then I'm seeing some others. Who did I just see? Gabe Stark was out there in the chat as well. I just saw the name. So if I missed anybody, I'm sorry. You should have chatted more so that we got you written down. Next time, we want you to let us know that you're out there. And if you're just joining us in one of these live chats for the first time or first couple times, let us know where you're watching from too, where you come from, because I'm curious and I'm nosy and I want to know where everybody's from. So that's part of growing up in rural Nebraska. We all want to know who you are, where you're from, and who your parents are. So that way we can try and
what's the weather like there?
And what's the weather like there? And did anybody get their corn in? Or did everybody get their corn in? And if you come to Nebraska, if you're not from Nebraska and you come to Nebraska, don't ask anybody if they got their corn in, because they didn't and they don't want to talk about it. And we're talking about, as the state, millions of dollars of lost revenue. We haven't even begun to feel the hit yet in the economy.
Yes, but hold on a second. On a brighter note, UNMC has found the cure for HIV. Did you hear about that on the news?
No.
Yes, they have killed AIDS in living creatures, or not AIDS, but HIV.
Really?
So
now, these aren't human test subjects yet, though.
No, they've got, we'll talk about it off camera. It's kind of interesting, so check it out. So Nebraska is curing HIV. So there's
University of Nebraska Medical Center.
We're not just a flyover state, we're saving the world. So there you go.
Google it. There's a lot of good stuff. Travis P11 and Sandhills Shooter and Sandhills Sweetheart aren't the only good things to come out of Nebraska. If you're a NASCAR fan, and I think some of you are, the safer barrier was developed at University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Outer barrier. Yep.
Oh, I'm a diehard NASCAR fan.
There you go. That safer barrier.
You're welcome.
We're not for
on behalf of
Nebraska.
all engineers, you're welcome.
We're at not for Nebraska. We'd have more people wind up like the Intimidator. So we're sorry to see him go, but we're glad that we could save lives after that. So
watch that race, seen it happen. Yeah.
Not good. Anyway, okay, so this has been 2A Tuesday. We want to thank everybody for joining us again. If you liked it, go ahead and click the thumb up. If you really liked it, share it with everybody and get them to watch too. Invite everybody to watch live. Subscribe to the channel. Invite all your friends to subscribe to the channel. Catch us on Facebook under Sandhills Shooter. Catch us on YouTube, or YouTube too. Yeah. Twitter under Sandhills Shooter, which is at Sandhills SHOOTR, because not enough spaces to get the E in there too. But check us out on those places. We try and share everything that we're doing on the multiple platforms. We're not on the gram just because I can't even keep up with what we do have. So Facebook and YouTube, gunchannels.com, Gunstreamer, and then Patreon. And like Obnoxious said, if you want to support any of the people that you've seen tonight, go to their Patreon page. Just go to patreon.com. It's patreon.com, and just start searching for some of these names. You're going to see a lot of people that you recognize. And it's a great way to give them financial support without having to do super chats, which we don't get the money for. We only get about half of what you give to Google. So they don't need it. Patreon's better. And if you really want to support these creators, Travis and Obnoxious and Rich and Gizzard Gary and Double A and Blow, Kingpin, who else do we have? G-Webs. Go support them on Patreon. Go support them on Gunstreamer, because you can do it there too. Or just see if they've got a PayPal and you can send them some cash. That's always nice too. But you can support G-Webs on gearwebsites.com. You can buy the merchandise, keep the van on the road, and keep the puppy fed. Always a good thing too. So, all right. I think that's it. I think I've said everything that I need to say. I want to say thanks to everybody for making this channel what it is. We just rolled over 1,550 subscribers today.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's awesome.
That was very cool. So once we get up to 1,600, we're gonna do a giveaway. We're gonna do a better giveaway if we get to 1,600 and 200 on Gunstreamer, which we're currently at 73. So we've got a ways to go. I've got way more people watching on YouTube than I do on Gunstreamer. Everything that gets posted up here goes to Gunstreamer, so you can see it there too. And if anything ever happens and Google decides they don't like us, probably going to be in your best interest to go find us on Gunstreamer or Patreon. So go check us out there. In the meantime, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks everybody for giving us part of your day, because we really appreciate your time, even more so than your hard-earned money, because time is something you can't make more of. So we appreciate it. We love you guys. God bless you. Bye, Felicia.
Adios, Felicia.